Tenez, du coup.
Moins figé le soufflet.
Comment?
Moins figé le soufflet.
Ouais.
Ça va?
C'est à l'envers. Good afternoon, everyone. The Oil Company is proud to present you a unique petroleum assessment of the Noord-Holland platform located onshore and shallow marine in the Netherlands. We represent the French school UniLaSalle, and the team is composed of Thomas Pichancourt, Jean Bacala, Anatole Glubetti, Romain Beignet, and myself, Agathe Ripoll. But before we go on this rock presentation, a quick summary will be necessary. Surrounded by dwindling gas fields, supplying neighboring countries, new reserves are needed in the region. So this is our chance to keep a major role in the European gas market. I'm sure you're going to ask yourself, how can we do that? And we have the answer, thanks to our 4 prospects: Champagne, Escargot, Bordeaux, Camembert. But also to our 3 leads, Baguette, Croissant, and Macaron. They are sourced by the Limbe Group in 4 famous reservoirs: the Rottlingen, Zestein, Bunter, and Vlieland. Now, we have to spoil suspense. We recommend you to find in. And we are going to explain you how and why, thanks to this workflow. First, we'll cover the Noord-Holland platform geology and basin evolution. Then, we'll follow up with the petroleum system, plays and prospect, to end with our recommendation.
Thank you. The dataset contains 13 wells. All of them have paper logs, and each paper log has several logs. They are of varying quality, and some even had errors in interpretation that we corrected. Only 8 of the wells are located on the seismic block, and only 4 of them have digital data. The only well located on the seismic block with check shots data is the KRL1 well, so it is the starting point for most of our seismic interpretation. The dataset also has 9 2D seismic lines and a 3D seismic block. All are 90 phase and of European polarity, except for one of the 2D lines. The 3D block was acquired between 1997 and 1998. Parts of it was acquired in marine and transition environments, but the brunt of it was acquired on land, meaning that there is no regular seismic top on most of the block. The southwestern part of the block is noisier than the rest, and a decreasing resolution means that objects thinner than 50 meters will not be visible in the deeper parts. Now to Jean with the structural framework.
The Netherlands are located in the southern Permian Basin, which is a cratonic basin in Central Europe. Below its surprising flat topography, the Netherlands subsurface is segmented into eyes, platforms, and basins. Our study area is straddling all one of each, with from north to south the Texel Eye, the Northern Platform, and the Central Netherlands Basin. These elements formed in response to lithospheric plate movements, and 3 main events are being distinguished. First, the Pangea assembly, which through the Sahelian and Tibetan pulses compartmentalized the subsurface into northwest-southeast blocks at late Carboniferous. The second event is the Jurassic Pangea breakup. It caused a regional thermal uplift and erosion during the Cambrian phases, creating the base Cretaceous unconformity here in red. The last event is the Alpine collision. It created basins inversions with once again uplifts and erosions, such as the Laramide in blue and the Pyrenean in green. In terms of stratigraphy, we have globally big transgressive phases, with some regressive ones controlled by the different uplifts. Now Thomas will proceed with the paleogeographies in fishes.
Thank you, Jean. So during the dilution, the paleogeography of the Noord-Holland platform was composed of carbonate reef environment with lateral changes with 2 anoxic marine shells, deep marine, sorry. During the Westphalian, the Pangea assembly created strike-slip faults, and the paleogeography transitioned to lacustrine and fluvial environment. This resulted in the deposition of 1 kilometer of organic rich shales and coals, forming an excellent source rock. After the silent pulse, the Rottlingen group was deposited unconformably over the Carboniferous. At that time, the paleogeography was a desertic Ionian dune environment, and the facies consist in clean cross-bedded sandstones like this analog in the UK. During the late Permian, the area underwent a small extension using the Carboniferous fault. At that time, the Zechstein Sea started to transgress toward the southern part of the basin. This resulted in the paleogeography shaped by transgressive and regressive cycles, the outcome of which was salt lacustrine and marine lagunal environment with stromatolites and oolitic carbonates. During the Lower Triassic, the Zechstein extension stopped, and a regression caused the widespread continental deposits in our area. It began with the wide lacustrine environment and ended with braided fluvial systems, which are containing good reservoirs. During the Upper Triassic, a new transgression started, allowing the deposition of evaporites and shales. At the end of the Triassic, this transgressive episode became stronger, flooding the entire area and allowing the deposition of the Jurassic marine shales. But at the end of the Jurassic, the Pangea breakup through Cambrian pulses caused uplift and erosion of most of the sequence from the Upper Jurassic to the Upper Zechstein, the outcome of which was the BCU. So, due to the major Jurassic uplift, the very beginning of the Cretaceous is composed of continental formations, and mostly braided fluvial channels with lateral continental shales. This will result in good reservoirs also. Then, sea level rise submerged the basin, and marine shales and marls filled it up. This is the Holland Formation. After that, the chalk group of the Upper Cretaceous is composed of the Texel and the Orlanden Formation. At that time, sea level stabilized, allowing the deposition of thick chalk sequence. And in these sequences, sometimes are hiding contorites and redeposited chalk that can be potential reservoirs. But at the really end of the Cretaceous, the area underwent a strong basin inversion due to the alpine collision, which created reverse faults. These reverse faults are believed to be connected to the normal Permian ones. Concerning the central northern basin, most of the chalk got eroded and covered with the shallow marine deposits of the Tertiary, coming to which the paleogeography of the Tertiary went from open shelf to Prodetta slope, and the main facies were marine shales alternating with sand bodies, which will be able to act as good shallow reservoirs. So now that you understood well the basin history and its geology, let's see how to build an efficient petroleum system with all this information. This is what Jean is going to start to explain.
Thank you, Thomas. One of the main elements of a petroleum system is the reservoir. Thanks to the literature and the well data interpretation, 8 main reservoirs were identified. From the most ancient to the most recent, there is the Genetian carbonate reefs, which is relatively unexplored, the Westphalian, which can contain fluvial sandstone bodies, as on the SMA1 well. Then there is the clean Aeolian sandstones of the Rottlingen, which present very good properties. For example, for the well K1, we have about 8 to 20% of porosity. Next is the Zechstein carbonate Z2 and Z3. Although good petrophysical characteristics, they have a very bad lateral continuity. Our next 2 reservoirs are in the Bunsenstein and Villon formations. They consist of awesome fluvial sandstones locally present in our block. The upper Cretaceous chalks can be as well very good reservoirs, especially when they have undergone reworking. And finally, our last reservoir is the shallow Tertiary sands. They are very heterogeneous, but offshore analogs as well as hydrocarbon occurrences in some of our wells indicate they should not be discarded.
Thank you, Jean. So now we know we have reservoirs. But what would a reservoir be without a good seal above it? Okay. Well, we have 6 main seals in the area. The first one being the Narmurian deep marine shells, overlain by the second one, which is the Westphalian continental coast. In the area above this, we have the Zechstein evaporites and shales, which are really well known for the excellent sealing quality in the North Sea region. Above it, we have the Upper Triassic shales and evaporites. Above the BCU, we have the Vlieland and Holland Formation, composed of shales, marine shales and Mars. And finally, like I said, during the Tertiary, most of the sequence is composed of marine shales.
Okay, Thomas, so we have good reservoirs capped by seals. Now we need source rocks to feed them. There are four main source rocks: the Narmian Black Shale, the Westphalian Coal Shale, the Zechstein Copper Shale, and finally, the Jurassic Pozoner Shale. In our study area, only the Westphalian coals and shales are effective. So to have a better knowledge of our main source rock, we decided to compute a burial history, first thanks to the well ODS1, with the result being just here and showing a generation starting at Upper Cretaceous, and then in the deep water area thanks to a pseudo well. The results revealed great hydrocarbon generation starting at early Triassic.
Okay, so now that we have all the petroleum system elements, we are able to build the petroleum system chart. And it revealed that the gas expelled in 3 episodes during Triassic, Cretaceous, and Paleogene, Neogene. Thus, Carboniferous gas can be trapped and accumulated in the Carboniferous, Permian, Triassic, Cretaceous, and Neogene reservoirs, despite frozen kitchen moment. To go further in the analysis of our source rock, we made a maturity map of the upper part of the source rock. And it revealed that the main kitchen is on the western side of the area. We also affirmed that the migration in our area is going vertically rather than horizontally because of the fault organization and the block compartmentalization of the area. So, now that you know about the petroleum system, let's see what the post-mortem analysis can teach us thanks to Roman.
Out of 13 wells, only 7 have traces of hydrocarbons, which all are only present in the Rothlingen and the Zechstein formations. We also have 1 well in production. GLD1 and SLD1 exhibit oil that could be explained by the generation of the copper shale source rock. Also, in SLD1, the occurrence of oil without accumulation could be explained by the flushing of the oil by the gas. But what about the other wells? 5 of the wells are outside of the seismic, making further study of those wells difficult. But 2 different causes were identified for the well being dry. The first one is the absence of trap. The operators probably missed it because the 3D was not acquired yet. The second one, it's a leaking against fault. For example, at the top of this fault, next to the WMO well, we can identify a paleo pockmark in the Cretaceous textile formation, which confirms the leaking characteristic of this fault. So if we recap, some might see there is only 12 dry wells, a kitchen only on the west side, and a Permian which has been thoroughly explored for more than 60 years. But we, the oil and geoscience team, tell you that we have 1 well in production. Based on the number of gas shows on the east side and the vertical migration pathway idea, there is still some generation in the block deeper in the Limburg group than we were thinking. And finally, we will take a look at other interesting formations. Now, the most important part, plays and prospects. 8 plays from the Nuntian to Tertiary were identified, and we will present them to you with their respective prospects and leads. We have 2 special favorite prospects in the Triassic and the lower Cretaceous with their awesome fluvial channels, reservoirs. But there is also a lead with 3 reservoirs stacked one above the others. And finally, 3 plays to drill further. The way we define plays was the same along our study. As Jean said, the Westphalian coals is our source rock. As reservoir in this play, we have the beautiful Rothlingen Aeolian sandstone with 20% of porosity. And finally, as a seal, we have the Zechstein evaporites. What a good compilation of elements. So we stack all the different maps to obtain a risk map. Also depending on the source rock maturity, migration pathway, and well control. On this Röntgen elevation map, we can identify two heights. WMR1 being dry, we will take a look to the second one. Et voilà, the prospect Bordeaux. This four-way deep trap is bordered by fault, enabling easy migration. Our P50 is about 35 BCF with 32% of porosity. Analogs in the area are well known as those fields offshore Netherlands. But what is a bottle of Bordeaux without its cheese? So let me introduce you to the play Zechstein and its prospect Camembert. This play is still using the Westphalian coal as source rock and filling the Zechstein carbonates through fault migration. As a seal, we also have the Zechstein evaporites and the lower Triassic shales. And here we are, the prospect Camembert. As you can see, it's right above the Rötlingen prospect, using the same migration pathway. This prospect still have a good potential, still a potential of 25 BCF recoverable with a percentage of 28% of probability of success, which makes sense in comparison to this analog offshore Netherlands. The main risk is the maturity and the reservoir. The seal and the trap, however, show still good potential. And I will let you continue with another.
The Triassic is one of our favorite plays. Here, channelized sandy reservoirs of the Bunsenstein are sourced through fault migration. The seal above is the shells of the Vlieland, and the seal laterally are the shells of the Triassic. Using our risk map, we isolated two locations with medium risk. One of them being already drilled by the SMA1 well, and that well being dry, we naturally decided to focus on the other location. That is the Escargot prospect. Using an RMS attribute on a flattened time slice, we found a structure displaying channelized features. Looking at the seismic cross sections, we believe this could be an excellent reservoir with stacked and fluvial channels. We calculated a recoverable volume of 215 BCF. If you're not convinced already, this prospect has field analogs in the same general trend of our prospects. They display a similar field size and a similar volume, which seems to validate the volumes we calculated. The main risk here really is the migration, due to the main drain for this prospect being a fault of low throw, traversing large amounts of evaporites and shales. All the other elements, though, are in the green, which seems to, and this gives us a probability of success of 27%. Our favorite play is the Vlieland. Here, braided fluvial systems of the lower Cretaceous are once again sourced through fault migration. Here, the seal above is the shales and marls of the whole information, and laterally, the shells of the Vlieland. We also have a prospect for this play. We called it the Champagne. Using a variance attribute and a spectral composition, we were able to identify and determine the size of a braided fluvial system. These interpreted seismic lines highlight the braided fluvial geometries that we can see on the attribute maps. We believe this reservoir shows very good potential. Additionally, it's located right above a normal fault, enabling easy migration. The source rock is mature in the area, and the seal is made of thick shales, although the trap is only stratigraphic. There's always a risk when you open an old bottle of champagne. It's always worth it, however, and this time is no exception. This prospect displays a recoverable volume of 225 BCF with a POS of 32%. It is, without a doubt, one of the most interesting prospects in the area. And finally, with a few leads, starting with the Macaron. Here, we identify these leads using only the 2D lines, meaning that it's completely outside of the 3D block. We were able to map a general trend of the structure, However, it could be larger. We need more data to be sure. It consists in an anticline affecting reservoirs of the Röntgen, Zechstein, and Triassic formations. There does exist an analog for this prospect in the eastern Netherlands with these three connected fields in anticline structures producing in Röntgen and Zechstein reservoirs. I will pronounce the names. And Natoujean with the leads Baguette and Croissant.
We studied as well the potential in shallower formations, and two leads were identified. Both Baguette and Croissant consist of bright spots as visible here. We first mapped the amplitude anomaly thanks to a RMS amplitude map thanks to the 2D lines. It highlighted different geometries. For Baguette, there is a trend of something here quite narrow, which is opening westward. This geometry made us think it could be a log. The geometry is quite different for Croissant, and the erosive base below the bright spot make us think it can be a channel or mass transport deposit. Another thing you can notice on the maps is that the amplitude anomaly is located near faults or along faults. It can be an index that hydrocarbons are of thermogenic origin, with the fault serving as main drain for the gas migration. With the 3D and 2D data, we've been able to calculate a provisory recoverable volume, which is 54 BCF for Baguette and 18 BCF for Croissant. We have to note that shallow gas is not new in the Netherlands. Indeed, in the block F16, situated in the north offshore, similar objects to our leads are being produced. Now I let Agathe tell you more about the place to drill further.
Thank you, Jean. Now, last but not least, our to drill further plays. We admit that we couldn't discard any of those because we really think they have an importance. So, the two first are the Carboniferous and the Dimension. They were identified in deep and bad quality seismic, but with such clues in data and literature, they have a good potential. Indeed, the Carboniferous show channelized features in RMS map. Also, you can find an analog in the Groningen field. Concerning the Dimension, even if the Namurian source rock is overcooked, it has expired in a short time, and thus, gas could be trapped in this deep carbonate buildup. The third one is the Cretaceous chalk plain. Seismic clues make us think to the presence of contorites and reworked chalks, which can be good reservoirs. Now that you know everything, we should step back and have a look on the overall picture. Okay, let's go. Our petroleum milieu is composed of 4 prospects. Champagne and Escargot are located in the north, and they have the biggest volume. On the contrary, Bordeaux and Camembert have lower volume, and are located in the south, where the seismic shows bad quality. So, the northern part presents our most sparkling prospect, but also our 3 subtle leads, Baguette, Croissant, and Macaron. Given such a concentration of prospect in the north, we should plan something over there. First, 2 targets for 1 shot, a deviated well, passing through counter-right to reach Champagne prospect. Secondly, a vertical well to reach Escargot, simple and efficient. As a third step, we should acquire a new 3D seismic to get acquainted with our 3 leads. Also, we identified an antiform with a great trap potential, but the seismic got bad quality in this area, and the structure is not entirely included in the actual seismic. So a 3D seismic block will be perfect. Finally, we should reprocess the actual seismic block to be certain of the presence of the Bordeaux and Camembert prospect, but also to confirm the presence of the Carboniferous and the Dimension. Indeed, the Dimension not only have potential for gas, but also for geothermal energy and CO2 storage. Now, it's time to conclude. What we can say is that we can drill happily and get gas ever after. The oil and companies thank you for your attention.